based on my research, problem solving is the mental process we use to identify a problem, analyze possible solutions, and select the best course of action. It involves logical and systematic thinking and helps bridge the gap between our current situation and the outcome we want. Problem solving is important because it is a critical thinking skill that allows individuals and organizations to make effective decisions. Whether in personal life, academics, or work, it helps carefully evaluate options and choose actions that lead to the best result. Next, what is SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool used to evaluate 4 areas: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal factors, while opportunities and threats come from external environment. By identifying this, we can make better strategies and informed decisions. However, there are limitations to SWOT analysis. From past findings, the limitations include subjectivity. Different people may see different strengths and weaknesses. Lack of prioritization, it doesn't tell us which factors are the most critical, and is a snapshot in time, so it may not reflect rapid changes in the environment. What are heuristics and how do they help? Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that simplify decision making. They help us make quick decisions without analyzing every single detail. This saves time and mental effort, which is especially useful in daily problem solving. However, there are risks when using heuristics. While heuristics improve efficiency, relying on them can lead to cognitive biases or errors. For example, we might make assumptions based on incomplete information, which can sometimes result in inaccurate or unfair decisions.
Thank you. Now that we've covered the basics of problem solving and SWOT analysis, I'm going to discuss the limitations we face during this process. Even with the best tools, our own brains often get in the way. As shown on this slide, the primary limitation in problem solving is our reliance on heuristics, or mental shortcuts. Think of a heuristic as a rule of thumb we use to make quick decisions. While they save time and mental effort, they are a double-edged sword because they often trade accuracy for speed. In a complex project environment, these shortcuts can become significant roadblocks to critical thinking. Let's look at the first section, the flaw of heuristics. First is speed versus accuracy. The first major limitation is that we naturally prioritize quick assessments over finding the truly optimal solution. We want the fast answer, but the fast answer isn't always the right one. Second is cognitive errors. Because we take these shortcuts, we often bypass the systematic investigation that complex problems require. This leads to significant cognitive errors when we miss the root cause of an issue. And third is, of course, logic. Tversky and Kahneman, the researchers who pioneered this concept, describe heuristics as judgmental shortcuts. They might get us through a normal day, but in problem solving, they frequently send us in the wrong direction or completely off course. Now these shortcuts manifest as specific cognitive biases that cloud our judgment. My slide highlights 3 of the most common ones we encounter. First, the availability bias. This is when we decide based only on information that is easy to remember at the moment. If a similar project failed recently, we might assume this one will too, ignoring all the other data that says otherwise. Second, the anchoring bias. This is the tendency to get stuck on an initial starting point or the first piece of information we hear. Once that anchor is set, it clouds every logical step we take afterward. Third, the affect bias. This is when we stop being objective and start choosing based on emotions, moods, and gut feelings instead of facts. If we feel bad about a solution, we might reject it even if the data proves it is the best option. Last the final part of this slide is external vulnerability. It's important to realize that our reliance on these mental shortcuts doesn't happen in our heads. It can be used against us. For instance, in marketing, these biases are often exploited to manipulate our choices and nudge us toward specific decisions. In summary, heuristics are useful for speed, but they are the biggest limitation to deep logical problem solving. We must be aware of these traps before we can move toward real solutions. With that, I'll hand it over to the next member, who will dive deeper into the specific limitation of the SWOT analysis tool.
Hello everyone, I'm Jiaying. Thank you to all the previous brands for our analysis of various limitations. Now, let's move on to the part of solving the problems. Someone asked us earlier, how do we actually solve the limitations in problem solving? Well, based on what we've researched, there are three main areas we can work on. First, to overcome mental shortcuts, we need to establish systematic thinking. What does that mean? It means when making important decisions, we should force ourselves to use structured tools like SWOT analysis or decision matrices. This helps us move away from quick, intuitive guesses and towards more accurate conclusions. Second, to correct cognitive biases, we can do two things. One is to seek external input, consult objective data, or ask for outside perspectives. This helps counter biases like availability and anchoring. Another is to apply reward thinking. Challenge your first judgment by asking, what if the opposite were true? Third, to defend against external manipulation, we also have two strategies. First, enhance your literacy. Learn to recognize manipulative tactics used in marketing, like scarcity or authority tricks. Second, delay your decisions. Implement a 24-hour rule before making important choices. This helps you avoid impulsive decisions driven by emotion. So in short, think systematically, check your biases, and don't let others manipulate your choice. That's our answer to solving the limitations in problem solving. Thanks for watching. And now let's turn to my friend.
So based on the Q&A question asked in the Q&A, the first major limitation of the SWOT analysis is the omission of critical factors. A SWOT analysis may not include all the relevant factors because some strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats can easily be overlooked or misunderstood. Because this framework relies entirely on the human brainstorming, teams can accidentally leave out critical market data or fail to recognize the hidden internal flaws. This ultimately leaves the organization with dangerous strategic blind spots. The second limitation is the subjectivity and bias. The input for each element can often be empirical or subjective and give a skewed perspective. Instead of relying on the hard facts and measurable data, the matrix frequently reflects the personal opinions, overconfidence, and the localized fears of the team members. Building a strategy on opinion rather than the objective truth give leadership an unreliable and distorted view of the business environment. Finally, the most severe drawbacks of the SWOT analysis is the lack of relational context. A key criticism of the SWOT analysis is that it doesn't show the relationship between the different factors and categories. For example, a particular threat might make a weakness much more significant, but a standard SWOT analysis grid will not highlight this interaction. Without seeing these connections, you are left with 4 disconnected lines of data points rather than an actionable, cohesive strategy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Suhaila, and as per my research, today I'm going to suggest a solution to SWOT's limitation. SWOT is an excellent method for decision making. However, it has certain blind spots and limitations. For example, it considers certain assumptions to be facts. So in order to tackle that, data collection is crucial, and a thorough research will result in precise decision making as it gauges the strengths and weaknesses of the decision better. In order to do so, data-driven research mainly uses primary sources like surveys, interviews, and focus groups. And secondary sources like industry reports and academic journals can also be equally helpful and thus should be implemented. In addition, collaborating with different perspectives like cross-functional teams and business associates will further result in reducing judgments and biases. Also, time-to-time consultations with customers and consultants will result in newer perspectives, thus reducing bias. Moreover, taking advice from external sources, external stakeholders and sources will also help in making the decision-making process easier. In addition, the information sources like the reports, surveys, and financial records should be documented, and logs of external investor discussions, the justifications behind the SWOT analysis, and timestamped versions of the SWOT analysis should be made available. This will help with evaluation and clarity before decision making. In conclusion, a systematic and data-driven based SWOT analysis can help improve decision making by maintaining fairness, accountability, and minimizing bias. Thank you for your attention.
The primary limitation of a heuristic is that it prioritizes efficiency over excellence. Because heuristic relies on system-one thinking, which is fast, instinctive, and emotional, they lead to predictable, recurring errors rather than random ones. This means that in complex or high-stakes environments, the shortcut consistently steers the decision maker toward the same wrong conclusion. The second one is the confirmation bias. We subconsciously filter out any evidence that challenges our existing beliefs, creating an echo chamber in our own minds.
Thirdly, what are the limitations of heuristics? While heuristics save time and mental effort, they often create what we call statistical blind spots. Statistical blind spots occurs when individuals ignore important numerical or probabilistic information while making judgment. One major limitation is that people tend to focus on memorable or emotional examples rather than actual statistical evidence. For instance, after hearing about a plane crash, many people believe flying is dangerous, even though statistics show it is one of the safest modes of transportation. Another limitation is the neglect of base rate information. People often overlook general probabilities and instead rely on stereotypes or limited observations. This can lead to biased decisions in areas such as hiring, medical diagnosis, or financial investment. Heuristics also causes overconfidence. Because decisions feel intuitive and quick, individuals may believe their judgment is accurate without verifying data. This reduces critical thinking and increases the risk of systematic errors. Furthermore, statistical blind spots can reinforce misinformation. When decisions are repeatedly made using flow shortcuts, incorrect beliefs become stronger over time, affecting both individual choices and organizational outcomes. Although heuristics are useful for fast decision making, their limitation lies in creating statistical blind spots that distort reasoning. Understanding this limitation helps us balance intuition with data-driven thinking, leading to more accurate and rational decisions.
One effective solution to reduce heuristic bias is the implementation of artificial intelligence and technology support systems. As we know, heuristics are mental shortcuts that people use to make quick decisions. While they save time, they often lead to biased judgments because decisions are based on intuition, past experience, or limited information rather than objective analysis. So how AI technology helps? The answer is introducing data-driven decision-making. First, AI systems analyzes large volumes of data objectively. Unlike humans, AI does not rely on emotions or memories. For example, in recruitment processes, AI screening tools can evaluate candidates based on skills, qualifications, and performance instead of personal impressions, therefore reducing hiring bias. Second, AI decision support systems can provide predictive analytics and evidence-based recommendations. This reduces reliance on heuristics such as the availability heuristic, where decisions are influenced by easily remembered information rather than accurate statistics. Third, automation improves consistency. AI applies the same evaluation criteria in different situations, which minimizes subjective judgment and improves fairness and accuracy in organizational decisions. However, it is important to note that AI itself must be carefully monitored. Poorly designed algorithms may inherit bias from historical data, so human oversight and ethical governance remain essential. In conclusion, implementing AI and technology support helps organizations move from intuition-based decisions toward objective, analytical, and evidence-based decision-making, effectively reducing heuristic bias.
Hi, my name is Chen Hao Yi. After understanding the common thinking bias from the previous slide, I will explain two practical tools we can use to avoid these mistakes when solving problems. The first tool is implementing friction and slow thinking. Our brain like to make fast decisions using mental shortcuts, also called heuristics. This is helpful for small daily choices, but for important group decisions, fast thinking can lead to error. For example, we may rely too much on the first idea we hear, which is known as anchoring bias. To reduce this, we can intentionally slow down the decision process. One simple method is using a cooling off period or a checklist before finalizing decision. By pausing and reviewing our options carefully, we activate logical thinking instead of reacting automatically. The second tool is seeking counter evidence using a pre-mortem. People naturally look for information that support their existing belief. This is called confirmation bias. A pre-mortem helps us challenge this tendency. Instead of asking, how will this plan success? We imagine that the decision has already failed and ask, what went wrong? This forces the group to identify hidden risks, weakness, or assumption that we might otherwise ignore. In summary, better problem solving comes from slowing down our thinking and actively questioning our own idea. By using slow thinking and pre-mortem, groups can make more balanced, rational, and effective decisions.
In conclusion, effective problem solving is not just about finding quick answers, but about applying structure and critical thinking to reach well-informed decisions. Throughout this presentation, we explore how SWOT analysis help organizations evaluate internal strengths and weaknesses as well as actionable opportunities and threats. However, we also recognize its limitations, including subjectivity, omission of key factors, and lack of relational context. To overcome this weakness, we emphasize research-based evaluation, diverse perspective, and proper documentation. We also examine heuristics, which are mental shortcuts that simplify complex decisions, while heuristics save time and effort. They can lead to systematic errors such as availability bias, anchoring, and emotional decision-making. These biases may distort judgment and reduce decision accuracy. To address this limitation, we discuss slowing down decision-making, seeking counter-evidence, using structured tools, and integrating data-driven AI with proper human oversight. Ultimately, strong problem-solving requires balancing speed with accuracy, intuition, with data and individual judgment with collaborative input. By combining structured framework, critical thinking, and ethical governance, individual and organization can make more relation, objective, and strategic decisions.